Wow. Now, everyone saw the video for themselves. We also see everything that's going on around the country with us, right now. The woman who was just killed by the officer in Minnesota, or at least that's what they tell us. No one deserves to die. No one deserves to be mistreated. But we just like to point out or bring to the attention of the viewer the disproportion rates in which these things occur. What we're talking about is in Minnesota, where Philando Castile was killed, and we saw video footage from the girlfriend that he was shot in the car with a baby in the car, and there was no reason for the man to have been killed. We saw the officer walk free within the last couple months or so. And within the same community now, a white woman has been killed by a black officer, and they threw him to the wolves. There was no call for Blue Lives Matter. The chief of police done been forced to resign. That's disproportion. That's not equality nor justice. You know what I'm saying? And so now what we're talking about is look at the split and the divide, the separation that goes on within the community amongst the people. And so now we've got a judge who sits at the highest seat that there is in our legal system, which is a judge. You know what I'm saying? He's not on the Supreme Court, but he's a judge. So he sits at the highest position in our legal system. And he's accused or caught being racist and sexist, which we know, pretty much explains the thought, rationale, and reasoning of majority of those that are in high power positions are sexist and racist as well. But it also shows the bootlicking because the man is accused of being racist, and notice the ones that stood in his defense, the group of black attorneys. Now there's a group of 10 black attorneys, just like the pastor said. How can 10 attorneys stand up and say for this man? Now they say he was accused of what, the B word and the C word. He also allegedly made racial statements about black people back in 2011, talking about we need to get on the ship and go back to Africa. Many old white people had the same sentiment. So as I explained in the other videos, how racism is defined by taking an outside approach look at the Dow study. You know what I'm saying? We understand the psychology and the mind and thought process of many of the individuals in this country and in this culture surrounding around us. But it also shows now how we are divided as a culture, because as the pastors stand up saying we demand them to stand down or sit down, now you've got a group of attorneys that are saying, no, we vouch for him. We stand in solidarity and we stand for his character. The fact that we're standing here in itself ought to vouch for the type of man that he is, although he's made these statements. And see, this is the disillusion that we all suffer from, is that we think that racism is an isolated event, and we think that, yeah, he called me a nigger last week, but he's really cool. No, it's not. As we showed through the Dow study, and as we talk about, this is psychological. It's not about the last time that you called somebody a nigger or the last time that you did an offensive act. It's about the deep down unconscious embedded reasoning and rationale of your brain, your thought process, of your position on the totem pole within this system we exist in. The system we exist in is called capitalism. Capitalism means that one group capitalizes on another. That means each is like dog eat dog. It means each one, it means I get, it says I get based off of what I earn. But when you're in the race, it's easy to say I earned because I won. But if you're in the race and you already put at the finish line while others are put at the starting line, or if you put, 20 paces ahead and the others have different obstacles and hurdles that they have to overcome, then it would be explained as to why you would reach, the end of the race faster. You see what I'm saying? And so this is what we talk about, is the psychological development that is embedded in us, because the capitalist system says you know, we get based on what we earn. So everybody's steady trying to get. But what happens is the psychology of what the system has created, as we've explained through the studies and through other videos, what the system has created is, within our mind, it's our viewpoint. So the white person automatically feels good and inferior, and superior and privileged, whereas the black person unconsciously feels that black is ugly and black is not good and black is bad. And so even though they'll make a jump to try to reach, but when you get smacked down, you just say, oh, well, you know, I'm supposed to be there anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I was reaching for anyway. And so now the ones that allow the illusion of access, these are the ones that have a disillusion, because the system affects us all, but they're the ones that are put in a position to where they are allowed to, what, for lack of a better word, they are allowed, you know, entrance, so that they can be the front people. Remember Nat Turner? For those that ain't familiar, the movie Birth of a Nation, but you can just read about it. But Nat Turner, remember, they didn't allow black people to learn how to read, but Nat Turner, they allowed him to learn to read the Bible. And he's not the only one, but he's the main one because he started a revolution. But they taught him how to read the Bible, but they did it. And in the movie, there's a point where when the lady decides that she's going to teach him, it's a whole bookshelf of books, and she says to him, "I don't worry about those white people. Those books is boring, but you can learn this book. This is the best book ever." And so she, you know, gives him the Bible, and she teaches him the Bible, and now he becomes a preacher, and his owner makes money and builds his plantation back up by going around and using that to preach to the other slaves to keep them in line by teaching the word to them, using the black man to teach the word to them. You see what I'm saying? This is the psychology that we deal with. And so these men that have been allowed access, these are the ones, these are the ones, these the Nat Turners before he rebelled. You see what I'm saying? And so these are lawyers though. So, you know, not only have they been granted a level of access, but in many cases, because of their knowledge and understanding of the law and their position within the system, they oftentimes don't face a lot of things that the average black person or even white person would face, just because, you know, when a cop pulls them over, you know, they go to talking mumbo jumbo. You notice how you've seen certain situations where black people have tried to stand up and they've been on Facebook Live or other, you know, social media, and you see the videos, and one of the first thing the cops say when they start to spitting the knowledge and the truth about the law, one of the first thing the cop says is, well, are you a lawyer? Because I ain't a lawyer either. You know, I done heard several cops say stuff like that. So when they actually get a lawyer, you know what I'm saying, it's like, yeah, I am a lawyer. Oh, okay, well, let me chill out, because you see what I'm saying? It's all systematic. And so now we divided as a community because they couldn't even get in the back and agree on one thing or the other. So you got black lawyers standing up against black pastors, supporting the white man who's being accused of racism towards their own people and sexism towards women. And this is the state of where we exist at today. So, you know, again, we just trying to spark the thought process and wake the minds of the people to get them to pay attention to the things that are going on around us. It's your man, Jay Free, I see. You know what I'm saying? United Intellectual Consortium. Enlightened perspective. Blessings. 100.